Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our candid discussion on diversity and inclusion. My name is Christina.
My name is Zaynab.
And it is a lovely 9:16 in the morning, July 22nd. All nice, fresh, ready to go for a wonderful discussion. I'm really excited to talk with you about it. Zaynab, how have you been?
I'm good. How are you? I'm excited for this.
Yeah, very excited to discuss, diversity, and it's a very big, complex topic, and I'm excited.
Definitely.
Right, I guess we'll start with the first question. Let's talk about our social identity. Zainab, what do you think are some very defining traits about you and your place in society?
Um, okay, I think I would say things that describe me the best about my social identity would be my cultural background and religion. So I'm a Lebanese Muslim, but I also am Australian. So I've got
Hmm.
all of that kind of mixed in with me.
Are you a
Um,
practicing Muslim, or is it your family
I would
background?
say I think I would say I'm a practicing Muslim, but on some days culture can overmind religion, and on other days religion can overmind culture. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
Semi opposite, I would say,
yeah,
because I grew up in a Roman Catholic background. My background is on my mother's side, I am Chilean, so South American, and
yep.
obviously Catholicism is huge in South America. But
Hmm.
I stopped practicing when I was around 13 because I just had a really struggle to connect on a spiritual perspective. But I would still say
Yeah,
that Catholicism is a big part of my life because, you know, the values of hospitality, charity, and just straight up and love is still very big to me. But
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
I think here in the Australia, something I think we both struggle with is religion is pretty not necessarily difficult, but everyone has a lot of judgment and opinions regarding religion. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree because I can agree on a certain level. Like, you have your questions, especially living in such a Western world, not
Mm,
usually surrounded by like because I'm surrounded by lots of Muslims, but we're in such a small circle. Like we don't see the rest of the world, if that makes sense.
I
Like
get that.
we definitely see the rest of the world, but because we're in such a small bubble, we're used to being surrounded by our kind of own people, if that makes sense. But then it kind of makes you question, like, is this the only way of life that we can like think of being right, if that makes sense? So you definitely question, like, are you really like practicing for yourself, or is it just your parents influences that have done this, or your surroundings? Is there more that I should be exposed to before making this big decision? Because I think religion's a very big, like, big thing to decide on if you want to practice or not
Yeah.
thoroughly.
You can also argue to a degree that religion is kind of not flexible, but you there's different perspectives that you can pick and choose. I know for
Yep.
some like stronger fundamentalists, that's like you're not following everything to the T. You should, if you want to truly be saved
Yeah.
or go to heaven or whatever it is. Because for
Yeah.
me, something that I struggle with in religion is my sexual identity. I am very openly bisexual, but
Yeah.
for the longest time, in the Catholic Church, like it's not recognized like your sexual
Yeah.
identity. You're assumed to be straight. I went to two Catholic high schools, and there was never a conversation about homosexuality, LGBTQ+. It was
Yeah.
a huge mindset of we do not believe in it, so it doesn't exist. We don't talk about it. We don't
Yeah.
mention it. And if it does come out, then you have to hide it because we don't accept it, and we don't want you to get hurt. That's kind of things like
Yeah.
it's more like we want you to be normal, but it's more of
Okay. Yeah.
like you have to fit in order to survive.
Yeah.
And that's kind of also why I stopped practicing, because it's like, well, why would you push me to not express myself? I can't choose how I relate, and you can't invalidate my experience just because maybe I haven't been with a girl, maybe I haven't had enough
Yeah.
experience. But I
Definitely,
also
yeah.
know many small Catholic organizations that are trying to educate the community to say, hey, this is actually very important. If anything, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ taught us to love each other, to love your neighbors, because in the end, love is all we have left, and we need to,
Yeah.
to get the younger audience into the community. You have to accept them.
I
Mm.
definitely agree with that 100%, because I think sometimes with religion, just like you said, they kind of tell you like, we don't believe in it, we don't want to talk about it. But I think we need to talk about everything, because then that just educates you generally. Like, for example, me, like I'm a Muslim, but I don't wear a scarf. Technically, I should be wearing a scarf by now, but I don't think I'm ready for it at this point. And the same way God is going to love someone that wears a scarf by the age they're told and someone that wears a scarf by the time that they're ready, you're going to be loved equally in the end. So I feel like you're still practicing in your own way. Like for me, I'm still practicing in my own way, but the way I would practice might be different to, like, say my cousins might be a bit more extreme with their practicing.
Mm.
Whereas for me, I'm not as extreme. Like I'll do all like the basics, basically, like fast and pray and all that kind of stuff. But like wearing a scarf, like, sometimes like wearing like a short skirt or something might be like considered wrong, but like it's just we don't live in such a Muslim dominated like country, if that makes sense. We live
Yeah.
like in a very Western country, a very multicultural country. Like we kind of have to adapt to both ways of life as well.
Yeah, it's important to a degree assimilate, but also you should respect your backgrounds. I mean, people, like, I've heard it from my more older family members, that's like, if you move to Australia, you have to be Australian.
Yeah,
And that's like, I'm thinking about it, like I was having this conversation with my grandmother who was Chilean, and I was just like, that's not how it works. You see,
yeah,
we are a country dominated by immigration, and we should appreciate that. We came from a country of
definitely.
convicts to a country of prosperity and diversity, which is good to move on to the question about inclusivity in a VUCA world. Like, we are in
Yeah,
a world where we cannot deny that the diversity and immigration is the common world now. Like, different religious backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, different sexual identities, different religions, they influence how we manage stress, how we treat our coworkers and our friends, how we go about doing business, how we go about problem solving. It's a huge thing, and I think it's beautiful to have different
definitely.
opinions. Yes, to a degree, it might cause some trial and error, especially if different
Yeah,
backgrounds really are against, like we're saying, like, the Catholic Church and the Islam not being pro LGBTQ plus, or some religions might have things about men and women working the same workspace, but it's something
yeah,
that I think you and I can really enforce and challenge.
definitely. It's a challenge for us to see where we can move forward and how we can move forward and how we can help our community and people around us move forward. So
We have, like, when we challenge things in our lives, and we kind of feel proud about it, and we need to give ourselves more credit than what we give. For
definitely, yeah.
example, like Zaynab, what's like something what's something that you're proud of that you've achieved in life?
Something I'm proud of that I've achieved would definitely be getting my high school certificate during COVID, because I think that was one of the hardest years mentally and like academically. It was just a mess.
Mm,
So I just think that was such a big achievement for me, knowing that we had to adapt to all these new ways of life, literally online learning, all these new things that we had to adapt to, but we still, myself and as a whole year, we were able to get through it together, if that makes,
yeah.
like, I think that was one of my biggest achievements that I was really proud of.
Yeah, me too. COVID was such an obstacle for us to face as like young
Yeah,
teenagers and young adults, because I also had to do it through COVID, and it
yeah,
was tough. So I did pathway. So I did my high school certificate over 2 years, because I have really bad ADHD. And I was dead set, like in the middle of COVID, feeling like I can't do this. I have to drop out. Like, it's so stressful and difficult. And it's, to a degree, it's so mind boggling to think that my entire life has built up to this one little piece of paper. Yeah, that you can go to high school, you can go to university. Like, university is so important. Like, I hated high school, but I knew I had to finish, even if it was the most stressful, most lowest points of my life. I know that getting into high school was going to be amazing. That is all. Yeah, I think we should all be proud of, all of us university and high school students, to be so proud of how we've managed through COVID. It's like, it wasn't just an individual thing. It was a community thing. It was a global phenomenon. And I think that is like something we need to celebrate. We need to appreciate. Doesn't matter, like, in the end, where the COVID came from. It doesn't matter who brought out the first vaccine. It's the fact that this is a common experience. It's going to change our world forever. It's going to change the vehicle world. It's going to change our interpersonal lives, and that's a crazy world we live in now.
Absolutely, I agree 100% on that. And definitely with high school, just how you said, everything kind of like comes down to that one piece of paper, literally, by the end of it. It's just kind of like, there's so many different ways that literally, like, the whole pandemic, COVID, kind of showed people that there's so many different ways that things can be achieved. Like, for example, getting into university, everyone kind of like stresses themselves out during their last 2 years of high school. You know, I've got to get that 80 plus ATAR so then I can get into a good uni and make my family proud. But you know what? I think it's definitely about making you proud. And there's so many different pathways into university. I've seen that from myself. I've seen that from my friends and everything, just all my surroundings. There's so many different pathways to get ourselves in and to like create a greater knowledge of our like education and everything like that. And I think definitely being able to educate yourself on like different pathways and different ways of life and different ways of doing things is such a great like skill that we would be able to have.
Yeah. In the end, it doesn't really matter which field you go into, whether it's sciences, whether it's hospitality, whether it's construction. Like, there is a way to get there. And I think we need to remind young people that high school's not the be all end all. Like, there are options, there are pathways. And in the end, you should be proud of how far you've made it in this world. Like, it's a tough world. We're all little tough cookies. And it doesn't matter how tough it gets, we will push through. I think we need to be more proud of ourselves, and we need to have more respect for ourselves and respect for others.
Definitely, I agree with that. I think the whole idea, let's just use high school as an example, the whole idea of high school, kind of just like generally people kind of, I don't want to say dramatize, but they kind of dramatize it and make it seem like it's so much bigger than what it is. And then that stresses the individual themselves. Like, I saw that from me. Like, even though like our teachers will like remind us, oh, there's different pathways and all that, they're kind of still like, but you need to do this and you need to make sure you're doing this and you need to make sure you get this. And then it's just like,
and like, the way you are in high school is not going to be who you are in the workplace. Like, I think about myself in high school and what I would be like if I was working in the culinary world, that like I want to, and I'd be like, Jesus Christ, I would not survive. Like, it is a tough world, and to put all of my beliefs, like the who I am in high school is going to be who I am in the workplace. Like, no way. It's stupid to think that. It's so difficult. It's like, but that's something like I think you learn. Like, you know, as a teenager, you're very emotional, you're very stressed out, and you can't be, yes, you can be emotional and stressed out. That's normal human nature, but like, you have to learn the skills of like time management, like multitasking, teamwork. Those are things you learn. You kind of start learning them in high school, university. And you're trying to be taught and trained. Like, these are the skills we need to manage going to the workplace. What do you think?
I definitely agree with that. I finished high school last year and I started university and working in construction this year. And the way I was in high school is definitely not how I am in the workplace or university. I think literally through the last 6 to 8 months that I've been out of high school, I have changed so much. And it's definitely once you hit that workforce, once you hit that new way of learning in uni, you just kind of, I feel like there's a whole 360 that's done and something just literally changes. And the way, like literally the way I was in high school, I am definitely not like that now at all.
Yeah, that just goes back to my point that younger people and high schoolers need to be reminded that high school is not the be all end all. There is so much to
Definitely.
learn and there's so much to be excited for. And I think we live in a world where we're so focused on success,
Yep.
like financial success, we forget to emphasize personal growth and personal achievements. I think that's so much more important.
Definitely. I agree on that.
Well, I think that was a pretty good conversation. Thank you, Zaynab, for having this conversation with me. And I learned a bit. I'm very happy with how we did. How are you feeling?
Yeah, thank you, Christina. I definitely learned a lot having this good discussion with you. And I think that it was a great start to my morning.
Yeah, exactly. And in a way, even though we have differences, we kind of have a somewhat similar experience, you know, like
Definitely, yeah.
identity, religions, culture. These are all things that seem very different, but in a way are very similar with our personal experiences and lives. But yeah, thank you, Zainab, so much. And I can't wait to hear from you again. And thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you.
All right, you have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you.